Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm excited to introduce our presenter, Carla Machuca. Carla is one of our amazing BC functional consultants and has been with True North for 3 years. We do have a Q&A function. Please put any questions you have in that chat, and we'll do our best to get all your questions answered. And take it away, Carla.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Carla Machuca, like she said, and I'm so excited to be guiding you through today's bootcamp, how to prepare for a successful ERP implementation. I know your schedules are full, so first, thank you for making the time to be here. I promise to make it worth your while. ERP implementation is one of those things that can truly transform how your business runs, but only if it's done right. That's why today is all about preparation, the steps you take now that can save you from a massive headache later. So let me tell you a quick bit about myself. I've been with True North for the past 3 years, working with teams across different industries to implement Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. My background is rooted in finance, and I'm a total data gal. I love digging into reports, numbers, and finding the patterns that make things click. While data is definitely my comfort zone, what I really love is helping people connect the dots and see how ERP can unlock real operational clarity and growth. There's nothing like watching a team go from overwhelmed to confident once they see how everything can fit together. Outside of work, I'm a proud South California native, mom to 2 amazing kids, and I share a full house with 2 cats, 3 dogs, and a ton of fur. It's a bit chaotic in the best way, but honestly, it keeps life interesting. So I'm really excited to be here with all of you today and walk you through some of the most important steps you can take to set your ERP journey up for success. So here's what we're diving into during today's session. It's a lot of valuable, actionable content. Well, I will keep it practical, approachable, and easy to follow. First, the importance of preparation, why this steps makes or breaks ERP projects, and how to do it right. We'll cover key success factors, 5 foundational pillars of ERP readiness, including stakeholder alignment and data prep. We'll also discuss stakeholder engagement, how to build buy-in early so you're not pushing a boulder uphill once implementation begins. Data readiness, what to do with all that messy data and how to get it clean, clear, and ERP ready. We'll discuss business process mapping, how to break down what's working, what's not, and how to align workflows with your ERP system. And we'll discuss the ERP toolkit, some closing takeaways, a final wrap-up that equips you with the practical tools, worksheets, and customizable roadmap to carry your ERP readiness forward with focus, momentum, and real-world action. Along with that, we will also have some hands-on activities sprinkled throughout the bootcamp. By the end of this session, you'll walk away with a practical ERP implementation readiness checklist and a clear understanding of where your organization stands and what steps to take next. This session isn't just about learning. It's about leaving with real tools you can take back to your team. Before we dive in, let's get to know each other a bit better. I've put together a quick anonymous poll to get a sense of where you are in your ERP implementation journey. Whether you're just starting to explore or mid-implementation or already post-go live, your input will help us tailor future content and to support you better and to meet your needs. So we'll be dropping that link in your team's chat so you can complete it. It only takes a minute. So I'll just pause for a quick minute, let you get to it. Thanks so much. Okay, well, thank you for sharing. Before we dive in, let's take a moment to ground ourselves in what this session is really about. ERP isn't just a tech upgrade. It's a shift in how your organization operates, from finance to operations to customer service. ERP touches everything. And if it's not implemented with care, those ripple effects are felt everywhere. This session is your hands-on guide to the foundational moves that lead to ERP implementation success, whether you're just getting started or already in the thick of it. One of the biggest pitfalls is skipping preparation. That's what leads to delays, budget overruns, and frustrated teams. But by being here, you're already ahead. You're investing in that prep work that most teams overlook. So to wrap up this intro, here are a few big takeaways I want you to keep in mind as we go. Prep is foundation. The stronger you start, the smoother your journey. This is hands-on. You'll leave with those tools and a checklist that you can actually use. And clarity drives confidence. When you know where you stand, you can lead with purpose. All right, now that we've framed what ERP is really about, let's dig into one of the most important elements of success, and that's preparation. You might hear ERP and think software, but the truth is ERP isn't just a system upgrade, it's a business transformation. And when it's done right, it reshapes how your decisions are made, how teams collaborate, and how it flows across the entire organization. But transformation doesn't happen by accident. It takes structure, strategy, and yes, a whole lot of preparation. Think of ERP like building a house. The software is your frame and tools, but preparation, that's the blueprint. The soil check, the site survey. Without even the best tools, you can't build something solid. You might ask yourself, why does this matter? It first uncovers risk early. Teams often jump straight to system setup. But what if sales and operations define order status differently? That misalignment creates massive reporting and fulfillment issues down the line. Preparation is your chance to catch these gaps before they become roadblocks. Poor preparation is one of the biggest reasons ERP projects run over budget, miss deadlines, or fall short of expectations. Imagine this. A company kicks off their ERP implementation and dives right into systems configuration. Everything seems on track until they realize their sales and operation teams don't share the same definition of something as basic as order status. One team considers it complete once it's invoiced, while the other when it's shipped. That mismatch doesn't seem huge until it starts throwing off reports, confusing customers, and disrupting fulfillment. In the end, if they had to pause their go live, go back and fix those foundational misalignments they missed during prep. Second, it strengthens adoption. People support what they help build. When end users are involved early in process mapping, feedback loops, or pilot demos, they feel heard. They're more likely to embrace the system rather than resist it. Now, I had one client that included end users in the initial process mapping sessions. Not only did it help build a better system, it also made those users feel heard and invested. By go live, they had natural champions already helping peers learn the ropes. It also improves budgeting and timelines. Strong preparation leads to accurate budgets and realistic timelines, not just base case guesses. One organization we worked with discovered dozens of duplicate vendor records during an early data review. Catching that up front prevented rework, reduced testing errors, and helped them stay on track for go live. All because they took the time to look before they jumped. That's what visibility does. It also lays a stable foundation. You wouldn't build a house on sand. Likewise, you don't want to implement ERP on unclear goals, messy data, or siloed teams. Solid prep keeps everything on track. That is why preparation isn't just a checkbox. It's a process of understanding where you are, where you want to go, and what it realistically takes to get there. So the bottom line here is ERP success isn't about rushing to the finish. It's about laying that groundwork for lasting impact. A thoughtful, thorough preparation phase increases your chances of delivering a system that works well and is embraced by your teams. A strong ERP implementation doesn't start with code, they start with clarity. So ERP implementation typically unfolds in 6 key phases. These are not just tech steps, they're strategic milestones that guide your organization through major change. Now, let's look at what ERP implementation actually involves and how preparation supports every step. Phase 1, the discovery and planning. You define your goals, you identify your business needs, and build your project team. That team typically includes a project manager, department leads, IT, finance, operation, and sometimes even external consultants who know the system inside and out. This phase is also where you choose your ERP system. Cloud versus on-prem, core modules versus add-ons, and you start to build your initial timeline and budget here. Let's say a retail company realizes they can't track inventory across multiple store locations. In this phase, they set a goal to improve inventory visibility and bring in store managers to help shape that plan. That early involvement made sure the system would reflect real day-to-day challenges, not just what leadership thought was happening on the ground. Miss it and the cracks will show later. Phase 2, design. You map your current workflows to the new system, deciding what to keep, what to change, and what to streamline. This is your chance to build a better, not copy and paste the old way. Think through questions like, what's working well today? What's clunky or manual? Where do delays usually happen? The answers guide you to how you will structure your ERP. I had an e-commerce company that wanted to speed up their shipping process. During design, they realized their current system didn't alert them when a stock was running low, leading to late orders. With ERP, they built an automatic low stock alerts and real-time inventory updates. The simple design decision, big business impact. Phase 3, development. This is when configuration begins. Roles, automation, reports, integrations. It all takes shape. But remember, your business users still need to be part of the process to keep things aligned. Your technical team and consultants will do the heavy lifting here, but business users should stay engaged so nothing is lost in translation. We had a manufacturing client that needed better visibility across their production lines. But instead of just relying on IT to set up the reports, they brought in their plant managers into the configuration process. Together, they integrated the ERP system with a third-party production scheduler and co-design real-time dashboards that reflect how the plant actually operated. The result, teams could spot bottlenecks early, make faster adjustments, and keep production on track. Because the system wasn't just built for them, it was built by them. Phase 4, testing. Think of this as your dress rehearsal. You run through real-life scenarios and fix what's broken before the system goes live. This is where early preparation pays off big. You'll also do user acceptance testing, where actual employees run through day-in-the-life tasks to give feedback. That feedback, let me tell you, is gold. I had one organization that ran a full order-to-invoice test and discovered that discounts weren't calculating correctly for returning customers. That one issue, if left unchecked, could have cost thousands, but because they tested thoroughly, they caught and fixed it in time. Phase 5, deployment. Whether it's full or phase, this is your go live moment. Clear communication is everything here. People need to know what's changing, when is it happening, and where do I go for help? Now, here's something that cannot be said enough, and I'll be saying it often. Communication is everything. Even the most enthusiastic users will struggle if they don't have clear answers to those 3 questions. Deployment isn't the end of the project. It's the start of a new way of working. If you laid that groundwork with good planning and that strong communication and hands-on support, go live can be smooth launchpad into long-term ERP success. So we had one manufacturer I worked with that launched their ERP across the entire organization in one go. But they knew it was a big shift, especially for their production team. So they created a detailed go live playbook, assigned floor leads to each department, and staffed a temporary help desk on site for 2 weeks. That structure gave teams confidence and made it easier to resolve questions quickly. Whatever approach you take, whether it's full or phase, what matters most is that your people are supported and your plan is clear. Phase 6, support. Again, go live isn't the end. It's the start of your real ERP adoption. Once your system is live and users begin working it daily, that's when the real learning begins. Post-launch is about refinement. You'll uncover new insights, adjust workflows, onboard new users, and fine-tune what's already in place. ERP isn't static. It should evolve alongside your business. So for example, after go live, a client realized they couldn't dramatically improve their shop floor efficiency by adjusting how work orders were routed, something they hadn't considered during initial setup. Because the system was built with flexibility in mind, they were able to adapt quickly and make those things without starting over. The key takeaway here is implementation builds the foundation, but the true value of ERP comes through continuous improvement. All right, let's bring this section full circle. We've talked about ERP preparation really means, and how you see it show up in real everyday stage implementations. When teams get prepped, problems multiply, but when you start with structure, when your goals are clear and your team is aligned and your data is in shape, you set an entire project up for success. Every phase you walk through, planning, the design, the development, the testing, the deployment, and the support, works better if the groundwork is solid. So, before we dive into the next part of the bootcamp, keep this in mind. Strong ERP starts with a strong prep. Let's keep building from there. So that's what the foundation actually looks like. Let's break it down into 5 key success factors of ERP readiness. These are the areas that, if prioritized, can really set you up for smooth, successful implementation. Oh, I'm so sorry. It wouldn't be a live boot camp if we didn't have technical difficulties. All right. Okay, so first let's start with clear objectives. First, you need to know what you're aiming for. This may sound obvious, but you'd be surprised how many companies go through an ERP implementation without aligning their end of goals. Are you trying to reduce manual processes, improve reporting visibility, scale for future growth? Each of these goals could lead to a very different system design. Now imagine a mid-sized distribution company start their ERP project with a vague goal like, let's make reporting easier or better. Sounds good, but no one actually defines what better means. So they go live and the finance team realizes the system can't generate consolidated reports they need during month end. Now they're scrambling, post-go live to rebuild reports from scratch, costing them time and money. Now picture a different approach. Another company kicks off their ERP project with a specific goal: reduce monthly close from 10 days to 5. That objective shapes every decision: how the chart of accounts is structured, which reports are configured, what training the finance team gets. Because the goal was clear, the system was built to support it. And they hit that 5-day target in their first month post-go live. Second, executive support. ERP is not just a tech project again. It's an organizational change effort. And that kind of transformation needs visible support from leadership. Executives shouldn't just approve the budget and disappear. Their involvement sets a tone and helps overcome resistance when things get tough. I have seen where CFOs regularly join project meetings, not to micromanage, but to show that this was a priority. That presence, let me tell you, made it easier to get departments aligned, helped resolve conflicts quickly. When people see that leadership is backing a project, they take it more serious. 3, effective project management. ERP projects are big. They're cross-functional, fast-moving, and often messy. You need someone steering the ship, someone who can manage scope, track milestones, and coordinate between business and technical teams. But good project management isn't just about scheduling. It's also about communication and expectation setting. Let's say you assign a dedicated project manager to lead your ERP implementation. They run daily stand-ups and send out weekly updates across departments. Even when projects hits a bump, which it will, your team stays informed, focused, and clear on what's next. Now imagine the opposite. No one driving communication, no clear owner. That's when confusion sets in, timelines drift, and frustration builds. The difference isn't just structure, it's momentum and morale. 4th, user involvement. This one's big. Don't build the system in a vacuum. The people who will use it every day need to be part of the conversation early. Otherwise, you risk creating a system that looks great on paper, but doesn't actually work in practice. See, I had a finance team we worked with. They were skeptical about switching systems until their input was included in configuring the approval hierarchies and reporting dashboards. By launch, the system reflected their actual workflows, not just IT's assumptions. Adoption was smooth because it felt like something they helped build, not something imposed on them. Last, but definitely not least, is training. So often training gets squeezed into the last 2 weeks before go live. But if you want real adoption, you need to treat training like an ongoing investment. Think beyond one-size-fits-all sessions. What does your HR team need? What about accounting or operations? You'll need tailored materials, system walkthroughs, quick reference guides, and champions in every department who can support their peers. So I had a company roll out an ERP with a buddy system, pairing power users with less tech-savvy staff. That peer support not only helped people learn faster, but it also created stronger ownership and team morale. So when you focus on these 5 areas, clear goals, leadership, solid project management, end user involvement, and robust training, you dramatically improve your odds of a successful ERP implementation. No doubt it might be a challenge, but it just will not be as chaotic. It'll feel intentional, aligned, supported, and ultimately worth it. All right, before we move forward, let's take a moment to recap what we've covered so far. These are the key pieces that form that foundation for your successful journey. ERP implementation happens in clear, structured phases, from discovery to deployment and beyond. Knowing what to expect in each stage helps reduce overwhelm and keeps your team aligned. Preparation isn't optional. It's the backbone of success. Skipping the prep work might seem like a shortcut, but it almost always costs more in the long run, whether it's delays, frustrations, or missed outcomes. And focusing on the right readiness factors sets you up to implement with confidence. Clear goals, that leadership backing, a solid project management, user input, training, they're not just nice to haves, they're what turn ERP from a tool into a true advantage. This foundation gives you clarity, structure, and direction, so you're just not reacting, you're actually leading. Here's something that might surprise you. When ERP projects stall or fail, it's usually not because the software doesn't work. The real friction comes from everything around the tech, the unclear goals, the disconnected teams, the outdated data, and processes no one's looked at in years. These aren't technical failures, they are readiness gaps. This is important because ERP isn't just about that technology. It's about how your organization operates, collaborates, and makes those decisions. If the foundation, again, if it's shaky, even the best system can't hold it all together. You might ask yourself, what happens without readiness? Well, once I worked with a team that wanted to move fast. They migrated processes and data as is, without checking if they were still relevant or efficient. Key users weren't consulted early, and when we got into testing, misalignments started popping up everywhere. Outdated records, mismatched workflows, duplicate vendors, it all added rework, delays, and frustration. That wasn't a lost cause, but it was a powerful reminder. What you don't address up front will find you later, when time and budget is much tighter. So readiness is a difference between surviving go live and building something that actually works. It's what aligns your team, clarifies your goals, and makes sure the system supports how your business really runs, not just how you hope it does. So in the next few minutes, we're going to explore the 5 pillars of ERP readiness, the key success factors that help you build alignment, reduce that risk, and get real value from your investment. Let's dig in. Think of ERP readiness as the groundwork for everything that comes next. You need to make sure the basics are solid. Your team, your data, your processes, your timeline. These pillars we're about to cover are what hold it all up. When they're strong, your ERP implementation and rollout have a much better chance of going smoothly. I will walk you through each one with real-world examples along the way to bring them to life. Think of ERP readiness like building that house. If your foundation isn't solid, everything else is at risk. These key pillars are the core structure that supports everything else you're going to build during this implementation. We're going to walk you through them, and the first one being Pillar 1, stakeholder alignment. That's often overlooked, but essential. Everyone from leadership to end users needs to be on the same page. Alignment isn't about who shows up at kickoff. It's about having clarity around goals and accountability. When stakeholders are aligned, decision-making is faster, communication is smoother, and teams are more invested. Imagine a company that takes the time early on to align their ERP goals with their broader strategic plan. They bring in both CFO and warehouse leads from the start. Why does that matter? Because now financial and operational priorities are considered together, not in silos. That kind of alignment can prevent rework later when it's time to design workflows or secure budget approvals. It's a simple step that saves weeks down the line. The next is data readiness. Think of your data like a map. If the information is outdated, inaccurate, or full of missing roads, you're going to have a hard time reaching your destination smoothly. Your ERP relies on that map to guide decisions, processes, and insights. It's one of the most underestimated parts of planning, but it plays a major role later, especially when it's time to test, generate reports, and go live. Like I had an organization we supported that had hundreds of customer records with missing, outdated contact info. Emails bounced, phone numbers didn't connect, and addresses that no longer existed. It didn't seem like a big deal until go live, when their first round of invoices failed to reach clients. The fallout: delayed payments, frustrated teams, and a scramble to fix at mid-launch. All of it could have been avoided with basic data review. That's the power of catching the data issues before they catch you. Third is business process clarity. ERP should support optimized workflows, not just copy and paste the old ones. Before you configure anything, take the time to document your current process and flag what's outdated, repetitive, or too manual. This is your opportunity to rethink how things get done and build something more efficient for the future. Now, during an ERP preparation, we discovered that a donation process was being handled in 3 completely different ways across different departments. The team used the prep phase to step back, streamline the approach, and agree on a single and consistent process. That one change reduced confusion, shortened training time, and made reporting much straightforward. Fourth, change management. ERP isn't just about systems, it's about people. And people need time, communication, support to adjust. If you don't manage the change, even the best system can struggle with adoption. Let me give you a tip. Build in early wins, communicate often, and have change champions, a trusted team members in each department to support and encourage others. And finally, a realistic timeline. Ambition is great, don't get me wrong, but pushing too fast will usually backfire. Rushed timelines lead to missteps, half-baked decisions, and team burnout. So I had a mid-sized company plan their ERP roll-up in 2 clear phases over 10 months. It gave each team space to learn, adjust, and feel confident before layering in more complexity. The result was fewer issues, smoother adoptions, and far less disruptions to day-to-day operations. This is what it looks like when you give each phase of implementation the time and attention it needs, especially when it comes to preparation. So, those are the 5 core pillars of ERP readiness: alignment, clean data, clear processes, active change management, and a realistic timeline. When those elements are strong, you're not just hoping for success, you're building towards it. So up next, we're going to take a moment for a quick self-check so you can start to assess where your organization stands on each of these 5 pillars. I want to take a moment to pause and see if we had any questions.
There aren't any questions in the Q&A.
All right. Don't be shy. Ask away. So before we dive in, I just wanted to give you a quick heads up. We'll be actually dropping 2 files into the chat right now. One is a PDF and the other one being an XLS workbook. I will definitely go into these packages more into detail at the end, but I do want you to know that we'll be touching on some of the forms, checklists within those packages. Again, no need to worry if you can't open them right away. We'll also send them to you by email after the boot camp. And I will also be displaying most of them on screen as we go.
Carla, I'm having trouble putting them in the chat, so I will work on that. If they don't get in the chat, as Carla said, they will be in the email that you guys will get after this boot camp is over.
Okay, absolutely. Again, I'll show them. You can screenshot it. You can, whatever you need, you can just jot it down. But here we go. All right, now that we've covered the 5 pillars, right, of ERP readiness, let's pause to take the self-assessment. This isn't a test. Think of it as a pulse check to help you spot where you're solid and where you might need to spend a little bit more time. So before you move into implementation, this is very useful. I'm going to walk you through a short checklist. As I read each question, think about how your team would answer. Just make a mental note or jot it down in the worksheet we will be providing. So here's the worksheet. Let's start first with, have we clearly defined our ERP goals? Do we have a dedicated project team in place? Have we started cleaning and preparing our data? Are our key business processes well documented? Do we have leadership buy-in and support for the change? Have we created a realistic timeline based on the resource availability? So I'd like you to take a couple of minutes now to jot down your responses. Yes, no, unsure. You can also use a next steps column of the worksheet to flag any areas that might need some attention later. So I'll give you a chance to review these, and I'll see you back like in 2 minutes. All right, we're back. So if you found yourself writing down a few no's or unsures, don't stress. That's incredibly common. In fact, these are often areas that sneak up on teams once implementation is already in motion. So the good news here is that you've already got that visibility. That's the point of this activity, to surface gaps before they cause delays, budget issues, or extra stress down the road. Use this as a guidepost for where to focus your time and resources. You don't need to have it all figured out today, but knowing where you stand is half the battle. So let's take a second to zoom out and recap the big picture from this section. ERP success is more about people and planning than just the technology. The real foundation lies in aligning stakeholders, cleaning up data, clarifying that process, managing change, and setting those realistic timelines. When these pieces are in place, the rest of your implementation becomes far smoother, especially on the technical side. These pillars aren't just a theory. They're patterns we've seen over and over again. The teams that address them early are often the ones that thrive. If you felt confident in a few areas, awesome. That's your foundation. And if you spotted some gaps, that's not a setback. That is insight, my friend. Now you know exactly where to focus your energy next. This quick self-check isn't meant to overwhelm you. It's to help you prioritize, right? Next, we're going to focus on a few of those key readiness pillars we just covered. It's one thing to understand them in theory, but seeing how they play out in real ERP projects is where the real clarity and that confidence comes in. And we're kicking off with one of the most important ones, ERP success, the stakeholder engagement. When the right people are informed, involved, and aligned from the start, implementation is much smoother. When they're not, that friction shows up. Okay, so again, ERP, it's not just a systems upgrade, it's a business-wide transformation. It changes how people work, how they communicate, and how they make those decisions. That means your success depends not on just the data workflows, but on the people behind them. When stakeholders are informed, involved, and aligned, things move forward. When they're left out, even the best design can struggle. Then think of it like a relay race. If the handoff isn't clear, the whole team stumbles. What happens without it? We've seen it time and again. A small leadership team makes all the ERP decisions behind closed doors, thinking it's more efficient. But at go live, frontline users are blindsided. So I had a retail company they rolled out an ERP inventory system designed entirely by HQ, by their headquarters. But store managers who dealt with real-time stock issues weren't consulted. The result, shelves stayed empty while the system showed full inventory. Sales dropped and the trust in the ERP system plummeted. Once they brought store teams into the loop, fixes were made fast, but the damage to adoption had already been done. In this section, I'll walk you through 4 practical strategies to boost engagement, identifying the right people, not just the obvious ones. Using feedback to shape the plan, setting up expectations to reduce that resistance, and communicating with clarity and trust. As we go, think about one person in your organization who might be flying under that radar. They could be the key to your rollout success. See, ERP changes how people work. So the people doing that work need a seat at the table. It's not just about involving the users, it's about involving the users who enter the purchase orders, manage the inventory, close the books, and run those reports. Now, let me tell you about a service organization. The ERP planning team included department heads, but overlooked the frontline scheduling coordinators. Once the system went live, the automated scheduling tool aligned with how appointments were actually booked. It caused double bookings, confusions, and delays for clients. the takeaway, the people closest to the day-to-day often have the clearest view of what actually works and what doesn't. Ignoring them can mean rebuilding what you just launched. So let's get practical. Who exactly are the stakeholders you need to involve early in ERP planning? Here are a few key groups and why they matter. Department heads. These are the folks who define your goals, own the day-to-day business processes, and can help remove roadblocks. A sales director might point out gaps in CRM, integration, or highlight issues from quote to cash process that IT alone wouldn't catch. Your engagement tip here is invite them into planning workshops and milestone reviews. Their buy-in sets the tone for their teams. 2, power users. There are the people who really understand how the work gets done and where the current system falls short. Let's say payroll administrator tells you they have to manually adjust payroll in the spreadsheet because the current system can't handle special cases. That's insight you don't want to miss. You need to get them involved in demos, testing and validating user stories. They'll help surface those real life scenarios. 3rd, finance leads. Finance is impacted in almost every ERP decision: reporting, compliance, forecasting, allocations, you name it. We had a controller that we worked with that flagged a big issue in their chart of accounts that didn't align with how their ERP handled allocations. Thankfully, it came up early before implementation started. So you need to make sure that they're at the table when defining requirements for reporting and internal controls. Operational staff. These are your boots on the ground, handling fulfillment, inventory, purchasing, all the workflows ERP is built to support. For example, I had a warehouse supervisor. He might share that he shared that barcode scanners didn't work with how the inventory was physically organized. If you don't know that, you might design something that doesn't match reality. This is why you have to bring them into your current state, mapping that workflow and walkthroughs. It makes a big difference. 5, the frontline staff. These are your frontline users. These are the people who will use the ERP system every single day. If it doesn't work for them, it won't work at all. Think of it this way. A customer service rep who's clicking through 5 tabs to get customer info might have ideas to simplify that process in the new system. This is why it's critical for you to host listening sessions or shadow their workflow early. Their feedback helps you build something that's usable and not just functional. All right, let's pause for a quick reflection here. I want you to think about your own organization. Who do you think is often left out of ERP conversations, but probably shouldn't be? Is it someone on the IT support team who knows the workarounds everyone relies on? Is it the project assistant who always seems to know where the things get stuck? Or maybe an administrative lead who catches the gaps that never make it into official documentation? See, these folks might not have a formal decision-making role, but they often hold the knowledge that's missing from the planning table. And when they're left out, you miss the details that could make or break your implementation. Okay, now we've talked about stakeholder engagement overall. Let's focus in one of the most useful tools you can have during ERP project. It's the stakeholder map. This part isn't just about listing names. It's about understanding who's impacted, how they're impacted, and how much influence they have on the project. This helps you tailor communication, manage expectations, and make sure the right people are at the right tables at the right time. Identify who's impacted. Go beyond job titles. Think about real world roles and touch points. Understand their influence. Who shapes decisions, owns workflows, or drives change? Plan how to engage. Inform, consult, involve, or empower them to lead. Keep it alive. This isn't one and done. It evolves as your project does. Okay, so now that we've talked about why stakeholder engagement matters, let's get practical. We're going to map and prioritize your stakeholders so you know exactly who to involve, how to engage them, and when. This isn't, again, just a list of names. It's a planning tool that helps you manage that communication and set those expectations to avoid those surprises. So here's how to use this worksheet. I'm not sure if we had success dropping it in, but if not, here it is. Again, feel free to take a screenshot if you want to right now. This tool, and I'll go down the list for you and explain them for you. So first, let's start with stakeholder name and role. Use a name or a placeholder. Example, like I have here, inventory lead, and note their title or their function. Their area of expertise. What unique insight or experience do they bring? The impacted areas. Where will ERP touch their work? Finance, inventory, reporting. Their influence level. High, medium, or low, based on their role in decision or adoption. The engagement approach. Workshops, feedback sessions, training, what works best. And the engagement level. This actually corresponds to a matrix that's in that workbook, but I'll break them down for you. We have inform, consult, involve, and lead. Inform is to keep them in the loop. Consult is ask for input. Involve is include actively. Lead, they own part of the work. And here we'll have notes and next steps. Here you can flag follow-ups, known resistance, or meeting reminders. Now I want you to take, a couple minutes. Let's take 3 minutes to jot down your stakeholders, who you'll feel the impact of ERP. Use, you can just sketch down your notes, a piece of paper, post it, whatever engagement style you like. So let's take a quick 3-minute break. I'll let you review this and think about it.
Yeah, I apologize. We're not going to be able to get them in this chat, but I will be sending it out, as I said, on the email.
Thank you. All right, I think it's been 3 minutes. So this worksheet isn't just for kickoff. It's a living tool. As your project evolves, revisit it. New voices will emerge, priorities will shift, and this map will help you stay aligned and strategic. And one last thing, don't avoid the tough ones. If you know of someone that's likely to resist, plan for it. That is not failure, it's foresight. And that's what real leadership looks like during ERP implementations. So let's talk about something that seems simple but often trips teams up, and that's communication. Most ERP projects teams think they're communicating. There are updates flying around, emails, dashboards, maybe even some town halls. But here's the truth. Status updates are not the same as engagements. We often push out information with no real context. What people really want to know is this. First, what is changing? It's not enough to say a new system's coming. What people need to hear is what's going to be different in how I do my job. Will the screens look different? Will approvals happen through a different tool? Will I still use the same old spreadsheet? Or is that going away? Second, why now? This one's about purpose. Why is this happening now? Is it part of a larger company transformation? A response to inefficiencies or pain points? Maybe it's aligning with a bigger strategic goal or budget timing. People want to know this isn't just change for change's sake. They want to know the reason. Lastly, what does this mean for me? This is a big one. Because if people can't answer this, they'll disconnect fast. How will this impact my role, my team, my responsibilities? Will I need training? Will my performance be evaluated differently? Will this make my work harder or easier? This is where trust gets built or broken. Now take a second to think about the last big change our organization rolled out. And let's be honest, did your people get a memo or did they get clarity? Let me walk you through a real story from the field. I was working with a manufacturing team that was in the middle of an ERP rollout. Leadership was doing what they thought was good communication, sending out regular project updates, checking off boxes, timelines, key milestones, tool announcements. But no one explained how the new system would impact a core piece of their day-to-day, how bills of materials, BOMs, would be handled on the shop floor. Here's what happened. Line supervisors and production planners were totally caught off guard. They had always access to BOMs on a shared folder or even a binder sitting in someone's office. Suddenly, all of that is now in a new ERP system. They didn't know how to find the BOMs. They didn't know that had changed. What had changed? So what happened? Production slowed, rework went up, people got frustrated, not because the ERP didn't work, but because no one had told them what would be different. This is the heart of it. Communication isn't just a status update. It's about making sure the message matters to the person hearing it. If someone works with BOMs every day, they need more than a project update. They need to hear what's changing, how does it impact my job, and how will I be supported through that change? And that's the key takeaway. Communicate the why and the what now in terms people can connect with, not just project terms. One of the biggest reasons people resist ERP actually, it's not because it's difficult. It's not because they don't understand why it's happening. They hear changes coming, but they're not told why now. or how it impacts them. And that right there creates anxiety. It's your job to tell the story clearly, simply, and in a way that matters to them. And that means answering 3 core questions for every stakeholder. Number 1, why now? Has your business grown? Are you consolidating systems? Are manual processes dragging productivity? Maybe you're just simply outgrowing what's in place. The point is, people need to understand the urgency. No one wants to go through a big change unless they know why it matters. Number 2, what's broken today? Here is where you show them what's not working. Maybe it's 5 different spreadsheets tracking the same task, or delays because finance and operations don't have access to the same data, or a simple process like onboarding a vendor takes 2 weeks and dozens of emails. You're helping them say, yeah, that's a pain point I recognize. Number 3, what's going to get easier tomorrow? This is a win. The why, it's worth it. Will ERP reduce work? Will it automate time-consuming steps? Will it eliminate duplicate entries, missed approvals, or confusion? This is what people care about. What gets easier for me? So I know one department that was struggling with tracking purchase orders, spreadsheets, emails, and calls just to confirm a delivery date. Once they saw that ERP could give them real-time status updates and automate the confirmations, they were all in. See, again, it wasn't about persuasion. It was about visibility. Now, think of one process in your organization that people groan about. Maybe it's slow, manual, or confusing. Now imagine telling them, guess what? This is going to get better. That's the power of communicating the why. So let's start with data cleansing. And just to clarify, we're not talking about fixing spelling mistakes or formatting issues in Excel. Data cleansing means making sure the information you rely on to run your business is up to date, usable in your future ERP environment. This step is critical. Clean data impacts everything from reporting and forecasting to inventory management, compliance, and overall system performance. Let me share a real story from a client we supported who was transitioning from GP to BC. As we began our planning sessions, we reviewed their vendor list. Pretty routine, right? Well, what we found wasn't so routine. Over 30,000 vendors were listed, and more than half hadn't had any activity in the last couple of years. Some were duplicate entries with slightly different names or spellings. A few had tax ID numbers that didn't even match up. All of this was queued to come into the new system. If we hadn't caught it, that clutter would have caused problem across reporting, budgeting, testing, and payment runs. This wasn't a mistake. It was a result of normal business operation running for years without a cleanup pause. That stuff adds up. It slows you down. It makes your ERP look messy right out the gate. Here's how that bad data shows up in your real life. Those reports won't match across teams. The AP team might accidentally pay an invoice, a vendor twice. Sales pulls inventory reports with inactive SKUs. You spend time fixing these things after go live when the stakes are higher. And let's not forget, bad data, it costs time and money. Every extra record you bring in expands your testing scope, extends your timeline, and inflates your budget. It's one of those silent scope creepers we see time again and again. So let's pause for a moment and ask yourself, how confident are you in your customer vendor product data right now? Do you have duplicate or outdated records in your system? When was the last time you ran a list and cleaned it up? I'll let that sink in. So let's shift gears into something more practical. You've heard why clean data matters and what kind of issues can sneak in and how it affects everything from reporting to testing. Now let's take a look at the ERP data cleaning checklist, which is included in the files we'll be sending to you later today. And it's also up on your screen now. This tool is designed to help you spot and fix the most common data problems before they follow you into your new ERP system. Each section focuses on a key area, like customers, vendors, your chart of accounts, products. You don't need to tackle everything today, but you can use this quickly. You can use this to quickly scan where everything stands and flag what needs attention. I'd like you to take the next 2 minutes to quietly read through the checklist and ask yourself, have we looked at this recently? Do we know who owns that data? And what stands out as a red flag? I'll let you read this and I'll get back to you in 2 minutes. Okay, now that you had a chance to look at this, I actually want to bring up some common data issues to look for, something to keep in mind, as these are the culprits we often see no matter what the industry is. So typically we see a lot of vendors with no purchase history, especially in the last couple of years, customer records with incomplete contact info, product codes that are outdated or just created for that one order, inconsistent naming. So across departments, like you'll see ABCCO versus ABC Company, and old pricing records that actually don't reflect your current rates. So here's a tip for you. Even just pulling your top used vendors or your top selling products and scanning them manually, I bet you will uncover some of these issues quickly. Okay. So now that we've talked about why clean data matters, let's bring it to life with a few real world examples. In the next few minutes, we're going to look at what dirty data actually looks like, because spotting it visually is often what makes it click for teams. I'll walk you through the 3 types of records you're almost guaranteed to carry out in your ERP, which are vendors, customers, and products. Each one has its own issues, but they all have something in common. If they're not cleaned up before go live, they'll slow you down, confuse your users, and hurt your reporting. So take a moment with each list, and I'm going to give you, again, a couple of quiet minutes to review, and then we'll discuss what jumps out. I'll give you another 3 minutes to review this, and we'll come back and talk about it. All right, hope I give you enough time to review those. I'll be jumping back and forth to from this screen to the next, and you'll see why in a second. All right, so let's start with vendors, since they're often the most messiest. Inactive records, duplicate names, inconsistent IDs. These are the things that create serious headaches for your AP team and your budget approvers. The bigger the list, the more invisible these problems become. Watch for small discrepancies like spelling and casing differences. For example, here, quick parts and quick parts. They might look harmless, but they'll break the workflow if you're not careful. Next, we'll shift to customer records. This one is all about consistency and contact accuracy. When you move to a new system, those old CRM errors come with you. Duplicate records, outdated emails, missing fields. It's not just annoying, it erodes trust in the data and slows down sales and service team. As you review, think about whether your team would know which version is real customer and what it would take to clean up now versus after go live. Now let's chat about your product and item data. This is where we often see mistakes in SKUs, inconsistent naming, pricing fields are left blank. When these show up in your ERP inventory reporting, it becomes unreliable and orders can get delayed and duplicated. Even simple things like formatting widget A versus widget A lowercase can cause problems in a system if they're not standardized ahead of time. All right, now that we looked at those examples together, Let's take a moment and think about what stood out. Was it the duplicate vendor IDs, the inconsistent customer emails, or maybe the inactive product records that no one's touched in years? Here's the point. Once you know what to look for, these issues are easy to spot. And the more you train your eye on them now, the fewer surprises you'll run into later. When things are moving faster, the stakes are a lot higher. Again, this is not about being perfect. It's about being proactive. So as you go back to your own systems, ask yourself, where are our blind spots? What needs a second look before we carry it forward? Because if we've learned anything from this exercise, is that every messy list today is a cleaner ERP tomorrow if we act on it. So now that you've seen how dirty data can really look like and how easily it sneaks in, let's take a moment to talk next steps. You don't need to fix everything right now, but you do need a plan. Here's what that plan looks like in 4 simple steps. First, prioritize your key data sets. Think customers, vendors, GL accounts, products. What's most critical to your day-to-day? Decide what stays and what goes. Archive outdated or inactive stuff. Don't carry the baggage into your new system. Create data standards. Names, formats, fields, clean, consistent data avoids confusion later. Assign ownership. Someone needs to be responsible for cleaning and validating each area. See, this is how you avoid unnecessary rework during testing and go live. It's not about being perfect, it's about being prepared. Now I want you to go back and ask your team, what list do we rely on most? Is it that customers, vendors, inventory, or pricing? When was the last time we reviewed it? And most importantly, who owns them? See, if you spot that data issue early, it saves you time, money, and frustration down the road. Because you see, this little exercise you just did, that's a glimpse of what your teams needs to be doing with real data. Treat your ERP like a house. You wouldn't build a dream kitchen on a foundation full of cracks. This cleanup is your foundation. You see, as clean data sets the stage, but it only works if your processes are just as sharp. Now let's shift gears and we're going to look at business process mapping and how it helps you avoid bringing old problems into a new platform. Something that trips up a lot of ERP projects is the business process mapping. ERP is not just that upgrade. It's a system that reflects the way your organization runs. So if the way you work today is unclear, inconsistent, inefficient, ERP is only going to highlight that. It won't fix it, it'll expose it. That's why this step matters. Think of ERP as a digital mirror. It will reflect back the strengths and the gaps in your business processes. It isn't about getting it perfect. You don't need a polished flowchart or a formal documentation just yet. What matters is clarity. You're just trying to capture how it works, how work gets done today and step by step. So you can identify what's working, what's broken, and what needs change. See, without this clarity, you risk automating chaos. And that's why we start here. We often hear clients say, we'll figure that part out later. But when later comes, it's during configuration and training, when it's so much harder and a lot more expensive to make those changes. Doing the process mapping now puts you in the driver's seat, not playing catch up later. Let's start with the essentials. Let's talk about where to begin. The truth is, not all business processes are equal when it comes to ERP. Some touch every part of the system, and honestly, those are the ones you should map first. These are the three most common core process areas we see in every ERP implementation. Quote to cash. This covers the entire sales cycle, from quoting to order management, fulfillment, invoicing, and cash collection. If your sales or revenue depends on it, this belongs at the top of your list. Procure to pay. This is your purchasing lifecycle, from placing a purchase request, approving it, issuing POs, receiving goods, and paying vendors. This flow affects finance, operations, and inventory. Hire to retire. Everything in your HR lifecycle, from hiring and onboarding to payroll, benefits, and offboarding. These processes are often full of manual workarounds that ERP can streamline. Now, your business might have other priority areas too. If you're in services, you might look at things like project billing or time tracking. If you're manufacturing, it could be inventory transfers or production planning. The key is to pick 3 to 5 processes that are essential to how your organization runs day to day. And remember, you're not trying to fix this all at once. You're just trying to capture that what's core, so ERP can support it the right way. Here are some tips for mapping. First, normalize that simplicity. You don't need a fancy software or a cool app to get started. Some of the best process maps I've seen began with sticky notes or a photo of a whiteboard. What matters is that you're capturing what actually is happening, not what's in a policy manual. Think of this as detective work. You're just observing and recording. What happens first? What happens next? Key questions to ask. As you map, here are some powerful questions to guide you. Questions that help you uncover inefficiencies and hidden workarounds. Who's involved? Not just by title, but who actually does the work? What systems or spreadsheets are being used? Are people switching platforms? Are manual trackers still in place? Where do delays or handoffs happen? Is it waiting for approval? For data from another team? What manual workarounds exist? Are people printing reports just to double check numbers? Are they emailing spreadsheets instead of using systems? All things to think about. The goal here isn't a polished flow chart. The goal, again, is the clarity. Once you can see the current state step by step, you can start asking, is this efficient? Is this scalable? Is ERP going to fix this or just automate the mess? Document what's happening today so you can make better decisions tomorrow. Now let's talk about timing. This step, business process mapping, is an incredibly helpful tool before you start implementation. Why? Because if you don't know how things work today, you won't know what needs to change tomorrow. And ERP will only automate what already exists. So if your processes are inefficient or clunky, the system will make those problems faster and more visible. Process mapping at this stage helps you spot the gaps, eliminate redundant steps, and design smarter. Simpler workflow instead of just digitizing a mess. And if you've already started implementation, it's okay. It's never too late to pause, take stock, and remap 1 or 2 key areas so you can course correct before go live. Okay, so now that we've talked about why process mapping matters and what to look for, it's time to roll up our sleeves again and actually map out one of those workflows. Everything we've covered today, data, processes, people, comes together in this step. And this tool is going to help you organize it all. This worksheet, let me show you. Okay. So this worksheet is called Business Process Mapping Companion Checklist, which is included in the workbook we'll be sharing with you later. So if you can go ahead and just review it here for now. This tool is simple but powerful. It helps you capture how your processes actually work and not how they should work or how they were written up in a binder somewhere. It's designed to help you document those key details, uncover bottlenecks, and spot opportunities for improvement before you get into the technical ERP build. So please take a second to think about one workflow in your company that's a little messy or overly manual. It could be submitting a timesheet, getting a PO approved, handling refunds, maybe onboarding a new vendor, or approving a customer credit. You got something in mind? Awesome. We're going to walk through this checklist using that exact process. So here, let me walk you through the columns. Process name. Just jot down the name of the workflow or whatever your team calls it. It could be invoice approval, warehouse transfers. Just keep it simple. Departments involved. Who touches this process? Think cross-functionally. HR, finance, operations, sales. Write down every team or role involved. The current tools or systems. What platforms or spreadsheets do they use to manage this process? Is it Excel, email, SharePoint, or maybe even paper? List them all. Trigger points. What kicks this process off? Is it a customer request, a form submission, or an inventory threshold? Step-by-step outline. List out major steps as they happen today. Don't overthink it. Just get the order down. No pain points. Where do things slow down, fall through the cracks, or get stuck? What do people complain about? Workaround use. What manual hacks or extra steps are people doing to keep this moving? Are they exporting and emailing, printing, or re-entering data? Process owners. Who is ultimately responsible for making sure this process happens correctly, end to end? Those key data inputs. What info do you need to start or complete this process? Order numbers, dates, pricing, contract terms, desired improvements. If you could wave a magic wand and improve this process in ERP, what would change? What would it look like if it worked really well? So I'm going to give you let's give you 5 minutes because this one's a long one right now. And so to fill this out using your processes that you picked, of course, you don't need to finish every box, just get as far as you can. The goal is, again, clarity and not perfection. If you're working as a team, talk it out together. If you're solo, jot your ideas directly into the worksheet or a notepad. Again, feel free to use a chat if you get stuck or want to share any of the processes you're mapping. I'll give you 5 minutes now and I'll see you back. All right. So how did that go? I hope that gave you some insight into the processes you choose to map, and maybe surface some interesting and or unexpected things along the way. Again, feel free to jot down any quick thoughts or highlights that stood out to you. It doesn't have to be polished. Just note what surprised you, what felt messy, or where you think there's room for improvement. Let me tell you, you have just taken the first real step in transforming how your processes work inside of ERP. Nice job. Again, this is not about perfection, right? This is all about being proactive. If you've ever heard the phrase, don't bring broken processes into a new system, this is what it looks like to fix them first. Every messy list you just captured today, that's the first step to a cleaner, smarter ERP implementation. So we've talked about why process mapping matters, what to look for, and how to get started, even if it's messy. You don't need that perfection, you just need that visibility. Because in the world of ERP, automating broken processes don't solve anything. It just makes that mess go faster. But when you map things out and when you bring visibility to the way work actually happens, you unlock something so powerful. You can simplify, align, and build smarter workflows that your ERP can actually support. So as we wrap up this section, here are your takeaways. Start small, stay curious, and capture what's real. The clearer your processes are going in, the easier it becomes to optimize them later. And with that, we're heading to the final stretch of this boot camp. Let's bring everything together and talk about what comes next, your roadmap, your readiness, and how to move forward with confidence. So I just wanted to briefly talk about the two attachments you'll be receiving later today. I wanted to provide you with a simple but powerful tool, and that's that ERP readiness checklist workbook. It's not just another handout, it's actually a self-assessment designed to help you take an honest look at where your organization stands before diving into ERP implementation. This is a workbook that walks you through the 4 core areas of your current systems, your resources, your business processes, and the risk factors. You'll find check boxes and a space to jot down your notes, your gaps, your ideas as you go. The goal here isn't to check every box perfectly, it's to get it clear. It's to know where you're strong, where you're weak, where you need to spend more time moving forward. Think of this as your prep roadmap. You can complete it now, revisit it with your team, use it to guide internal conversations after this session. It's a living document. Keep it close and updated as your project evolves. We also are providing you with the ERP implementation workbook. Everything we've covered so far, from stakeholder engagement to business processes, mapping to data preparation, is essential in ERP success. But I know it can be a lot to take in all at once. That's why we pulled together into a single, easy-to-use workbook. This workbook is your go-to companion throughout your ERP planning process. Inside, you'll find fillable worksheets and checklists for major readiness areas like stakeholder mapping, communication planning, process mapping, data review. It's designed to help you apply what we've discussed right away to your organization. Most of these forms you actually did see today. However, there are a couple sprinkled in there that you did not get to see, but don't fret. There's also instructions in there. And you'll receive a copy of our slide deck too. As we wrap up the bootcamp and the section, let's step back and connect the dots. We've talked about how ERP success doesn't start with software. It starts with preparation, with people, with clarity. You've seen how messy data can ripple into missed deadlines, how unclear processes can slow down progress, and how poor communication could stall even the best tools. But we've also seen how the right prep work, cleaning data, mapping how work really happens, engaging stakeholders early, and communicating with purpose can unlock a smoother implementation and real business value. ERP is not just an IT project. It's a business transformation, and your team's readiness, your clarity, your alignment, your strategy is what sets the tone for everything that follows. So whether your team is just getting started or already deep in planning, remember this. The time you invest now pays off in fewer surprises, stronger adoption, and a system that actually works for the people using it. So to help keep this momentum going, you'll be receiving that full workbook complete with the checklist and the planning tools and the worksheets for each major areas we covered. Use it to track this progress, assign ownership, and make these lessons real inside your organization. Because ERP readiness is not a one-time task, it's a mindset. And this workbook is here to help you carry that forward. So again, thank you for attending. I know Cameron, I know that there's some final thoughts. Thank you for attending. Cameron, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, if you have any questions, as Carla has put up on the screen, you can reach out to either our partner success or our client success, and someone will get back to you. We will be sending out, as we've said many times, an email that includes all of the documents that Carla went over today, as well as the recording of this boot camp and the slide deck that she presented. Again, thank you, Carla. You did an incredible job showing us how to be prepared for a successful implementation. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.